agriculture and urban development. That's the focus of the second edition of the Ogun Investment Forum, and that's where we're coming to you live from. We're joined now by Mr. Emmanuel Ijewe, who is the Chairman, Community of Agricultural Stakeholders of Nigeria. Morning, and thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
When you talk about Community of Agricultural Stakeholders, who are they?
That's the totality of players in the agribusiness industry. It goes historically, we thought that agriculture meant farming, but we've learned a lot better, a lot more now. What have we learned? Unless the value chain is fixed, unless the value chain works with each other in synergy, what the farmer plants does not have a market. It destroys the farmer. If the market is expecting, there is no communication in terms of logistics to get the goods to the farm, nothing happens. It gets wasted. You have the post-harvest losses. You come to a situation the banker does not understand what the farmer or the logistic person wants. So it's a totality. Bring everybody together around one table, discussing agribusiness as one unit of event. So it contains everybody. Okay,
let me pick up on the last one, the bankers.
Yes.
Crucial in this agribusiness as it is. Are they members of this stakeholders?
Oh, certainly, yeah. Yes, they are members of this stakeholders.
You know, but I listened to the managing director of Guarantee Trust Bank yesterday, Mr. Shogun Kwaje, and it didn't seem like the future was looking bright in terms of, because one of the challenges the farmers, or generally the agri sector, has always complained about is access to credit.
Yes.
But from what he said, he was saying that it's going to be a long time coming if banks are going to be lending to, you know, the agricultural sector. He says our structure doesn't quite support lending to agriculture.
That's true. I mean, certainly, if they get their monies from short-term sources, they cannot give it on long-term sources. I mean, let's take agriculture, for example. 75% of your cost is preparing the land. And when you prepare the land for the first time, you use that same land for a minimum of about 5 or 6 years. But the sunk cost is already there in the first year. The banks will want their money back within 12 months, whereas you have spread it out over 5 or 6 years. So you have this mismatch. Yes, he was right in
I'm happy that you understand, you know, I mean, their own constraints as well. What I'm just saying is, what does that do for you in terms of the constant complaint of access to credit?
Now, actually, government is fully aware of this, at least the federal government and a number of state governments. They're trying to now ameliorate this. But the long-term solution is looking for long-term funds. We have the pension funds, which are being built up. A lot of pension fund is being put in place. A lot of international funds that are long-term in nature are coming up. You can also go in for the bonds the government are bringing up. So new ideas are coming. But what was the most important, what was the most difficult situation the banks faced was that they knew nothing about agribusiness. They have all entrenched and trained their people for oil and gas. They've trained their people for those high-falutin words and high-falutin businesses. Nobody will talk about agriculture.
And that is sorry to cut you.
Yes,
and that has also affected the thinking of especially young Nigerians.
Absolutely.
Because you said something yesterday which I picked. You said, don't beg them to come into agriculture.
You're right.
Make it attractive to them. Let's talk more on that.
Okay. Now, first, the young men will go to where they believe that there is dignity and there is money to be made and they have a future. They can build a career on it. Let's take you heard what was said yesterday by the Mexican former American president, when he said that young people want things that have dignity to them. And somebody else translated that to mean that if you can give a young man, a young university graduate, a small equipment, he will own. He will now go and use in farms. People will see him with it. He will feel good. Psychologically, do you know the pride people have in the villages when they hold their handsets, as small as it is? For us, in the cities, we've taken it for granted. For them, it's a sign of dignity. In the same manner, young people want something that has respect. Farming has, over the years, been identified as the twin brother of poverty. That is the concept. That now must change. Like the new drive right now is that it is now agribusiness. You must go in there because it's going to be profitable. But we must also move us all the way, including the young people, away from the mentality that the only thing in agribusiness is farming. If all we can do because there is a new program that's coming up now, for example, with the banks trying to raise money for young people to own tractors, even small tractors. You own it and you pay back over 5 or 6 years on a lease basis. You go from farm to farm and help them to plow their fields and so on. And that also has a positive effect on the farmer. It's most back-breaking business in farming is land preparation. It's not the actual planting, it's not the harvesting, it's the land preparation. And that's why farmers cannot go beyond 1 hectare, 2 hectares. But the moment you are able to have an equipment, even handheld ones, you could go to 5, 10, 15 hectares. It brings more respect to the farmer, it brings more respect to the young man. So bringing young people, you're not on the basis of that I beg you come, but on the basis of it is attractive, you can make a career of it, there's dignity in it, and there's a future in it.
There's been plenty of talk on this. I mean, at the federal level, you were also seeing enthusiasm coming from that level. We are hearing that things are changing in terms of how farmers are getting access to fertilizer. But people are wondering, is it all talk? Is something really happening in this particular sector? You're a practitioner here. Have you really noticed a shift, a real shift in terms of Nigeria shifting from oil and gas to agriculture?
It is really real, but not as much as people perceive it to be as of today. But there are underlying things that are happening here. One, there is a lot of competition between states. That competition is good because they have now realized that their monthly allocation from the federal revenue, which comes from oil, is dwindling, and they now must create their own. And many of them, recently we had the stable crop processing thing we had in Abuja during the World Economic Forum, and you saw first the interest that was shown by the international community was unbelievable. I now saw competition between the governors trying to attract these people and saying to them, when you come to my state, these are the things I will do to you to make sure that you succeed. This is the support I will give you. It took us a long time. It's like a huge, big stone boulder that you're pushing down a hill. Don't let it stop. So it's gathering momentum. All these things are taking time, but they are coming there. Rice, for example, I believe that by the end of next year, or at least the next 12 months or 24 months, we should be sufficient in rice, because a lot of hype has come into it, a lot of commercial farming has come into it, a lot of interest has come into it. Government has backed it up with legislation saying that they intend to do this. These things, all this, you see, that's why I said, whatever you're doing, there must be synergy right down the line. Everybody must be on board.
How is the funding playing out for rice production?
Well, there's no specific funding for rice.
So the same thing?
Yes, let us now understand that rice development is a business. It's the same like you setting up your own small business. There should be no special funding for it. If the banks see that there is profit to be made, they will put their money in there. Let's take the situation that we discussed yesterday. You talked about rice. The land is one of the big issues. If the government says, all right, don't give us money now, we will now give you a time within which, with the money you start reaping, reaping your crops, this is what you pay. That reduces the upfront payment you need to put in there. Banks are going for equipment leasing. That now reduces the need for you to go and buy a tractor for 7 million or 8 million. You pay about 300 or 400,000, and over a certain number of years you pay these up. So the funding should be done in a more scientific way rather than putting money on the table. The moment you put money on the table, corruption comes into it, politicians look into it, and the farmer never gets it. We've always done this over the years, so we've got to stop all this and start doing it in a scientific manner.
So are you then suggesting that those funds provided for by the CBN, the Bank of Agriculture, we need to redesign all of those ones?
They're all being redesigned. One of them that CACS is doing well, that is the commercial agri lending scheme. But the one that's we are not too happy about, at least in our industry, is the NESA, the risk-based one. That was set up by the central bank. The problem that happened there was the fact that the banks still charge between 20 and 25%. There's no serious business you will do and be able to pay that rate of interest. So that in itself is discouraging a lot of people. The intention was right, but it was not money put down by government. It was the bank's own money. So at the moment you bring government puts in money and say we are putting this money, everybody, even those in the oil industry, drop their oil industry business for the time being and come to source this fund. I never gets to where it's supposed to get to. So we stop this stop and go that breeds corruption, because there is an endemic situation in the country where everybody wants cheap and fast money. But make sure that if you are going to benefit at the end. In other words, after you have carried out the investment, then at the end of the day, when you are reaping your crops, then you have the subsidy that will come into it based on that, not on the upfront level.
All right, Mr. Manuel Jure, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.